What's up, everyone? Matt Gajewski here, back again talking college football. And today we are discussing TCU ahead of the 2025 season. If you like this content, please consider leaving a like or subscribing. Those two things help us a lot as we try to grow. You'd be shocked how much even just a like does for getting us in front of new viewers. We'll be continuing to break down all these P4 teams as well as the G5 into the offseason before we get into real game breakdowns. Without further ado, let's talk TCU and discuss what happened last year briefly before we get into this year. Here are the metrics from TCU's 9-4 season that we saw in 2024. A very good bounce back for this team. You know, they had the national championship run, then they missed a bowl in the second season. Made sense. They lost a lot of NFL players. Last year, they bounced back again. So, no surprise, we are seeing a lot of the efficiency metrics climb well inside the top 50. The only places of concern, rushing output, that should come as a surprise to nobody. Cam Cook didn't necessarily live up to expectation. They really struggled to find a player there. It was a young position. Now they're undergoing a few changes. Cam Cook is gone. So I'm expecting that to be better, but they were the 100th ranked just pure rushing unit. Run blocking also struggled at times. They had some injuries in the offensive line, so not a huge concern. And that unit overall, when you factor in pass blocking, was still very good. And then on defense, an awesome defense overall, sort of lopsided, very good in coverage. Pass rush was definitely a problem at times, but that was another position where they had some season-ending injuries before it even began. The season even began. Paul Olawale was out for the entire season, so that unit should also be better. And it was the first year under a new DC. So it was great to see the improvement. Now we just need to see it over some extra areas of the field, which I think will happen with TCU. But we mentioned it at the top briefly. Sonny Dykes has been an incredible success with this team since taking the job. He's now in his fourth season. His record is 27-13. He brought this team to the national championship. And even in the 5-7 season, it was a rebuild. We knew that was going to happen. Made the requisite changes, especially at DC, to hopefully get the most out of this team moving forward. And we had immediate results. 9-4 last year. Their only losses came to UCF, SMU, Houston, and Baylor. 3 of those were very close. UCF was by a point. They really let them come back in the game and probably should have won. Houston was by 11 points. That was a weird game and just speaks to the parity in the Big 12. Houston had a number of wins at the end of the season that were pretty impressive, despite them finishing at the bottom of the conference. And then Baylor, there was a 3-point loss. The only loss that was sort of out of hand was SMU, and that was a 66-44 shootout. With that said, the close losses, they had a couple close wins too. Stanford, they won by 7 points. Utah, they won by 6. Texas Tech, they won by 1. Cincinnati, they won by 7. So basically, you finish about 500 in your coin flip games, which is about to be expected. And they had some pretty impressive wins on the low end. They demolished the teams they should have: Kansas, Arizona, Oklahoma State, Louisiana in the bowl, who was playing with the skeleton crew. But it is what it is. It was kind of, we took care of business with TCU. We made the necessary changes and went 9-4. Now can we take that next step and actually get back to the Big 12 championship? And the staff has a lot of things in place to make this happen. Kendall Briles is back. Very efficient offenses with him. What he's done with Josh Hoover now has been amazing. It's going to be an air raid style scheme. They use a lot of tempo, a lot of zone reads and RPOs. This is going to be a good offense. Even with the departures, I think we can confidently say Briles has gotten the most out of players in the roster. Avalos on defense, now entering year 2. Very impressive. They went from 71st to 38th. Despite some players that were riddled with injuries, the players seem to really like playing for him. His Boise State tenure didn't go according to plan, but it honestly wasn't, he didn't fail there, just maybe didn't live up to expectations. So Avalos has been awesome as DC for his first year. We'll see what he can build on for year 2. Let's look at talent acquisition for TCU. This is definitely a strength for this team. Recruiting-wise, top 2 in the Big 12 each of the last 3 seasons. This is the best talent acquisition program in the Big 12 right now. Now that Texas and Oklahoma are gone, Texas Tech is going to try to rival this team, but they haven't quite put it all together yet. Texas Tech would be second. I mean, they have them edged. This is an excellent talent acquisition team. They're great at retaining. They have 81% of last year's class back, 52% of 2023. There's not much else you could say. And some of the things they're losing is, the product of recruiting very well. Like Hensley, the quarterback, the 4-star, he had to leave because he couldn't get playing time with Hoover said, and they brought in a 4-star in this class. So eventually you see this problem at Ohio State, Alabama. You stack enough 4-stars at QB, like you're going to lose some in the portal. It's just inevitable. So it's a real credit to what TCU's been able to do recruiting. Their transfer rankings are also pretty good. They're a little more selective recently, 53rd in this year's class, whereas previously they were 25th and 21st. That's the product of stacking these recruiting classes. You don't need to take as many transfers, which seems to be what's happening this year. But let's dive into the actual roster and talk too deep. Here's our depth chart. This is available in the Discord if you'd like. We have all the players listed. The transfers are in yellow, what year they are in school, how many snaps they've played the last 2 years, what recruiting ranking they are in terms of stars, and then a value score, which looks first at your recruitment, and then it looks second at the time you've been on the field. So the more snaps you play, the less it looks at recruiting, the more it looks at your on-field performance to give you a sort of Madden rating where 50 would just be an average player. So TCU is a very good team. And that starts with Josh Hoover, who started the better part of 2 seasons, including all of last year. We had record-breaking seasons for the program, 66.5% completion, 3,949 yards at 8.4 yards per attempt, 27 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, 17 big-time throws, 18 turnover-worthy plays. If you were going to poke a hole in his game, he's a little bit like a Garrett Nussmeier gunslinger type where he will press the ball downfield, put the ball in harm's way at times. And he was a little lucky last year to not have more turnovers, but you got to take the good with the bad with him. You get some of the big plays because he's that risk taker. He's 6'2", 200 pounds, not a runner, negative 17 rushing yards last year, but he also was pretty good at navigating pressure. He only took 15 sacks. That was a 12% pressure to sack ratio, which is above average. And overall, he was the 21st most efficient QB in college football. You can't ask for much more. I guess a second hole you could poke. It's pretty easy to play quarterback when you're playing with Jack Besh, when you're playing with Savion Williams, even J.P. Richardson. Easy is maybe not the right way to phrase that, but NFL receivers will make your life easier. It's the way I'll phrase that. This year, that's more of a question. Behind him, they bring in another 4-star, Adam Schobel. He is the 212th ranked QB prospect, the 18th QB prospect, the 212th overall prospect in this cycle. He profiles a little different than Hoover. He's more of an athlete, but they still have Ken Seals. He's the former Vanderbilt signal caller. Efficiency metrics are poor. He's basically career backup at this point, but at least he's a guy who's played a lot. So in a pinch, if he needed to start a game, it probably wouldn't be the worst case scenario, but if it's any length of time, it could be a disaster. But it's a nice blend for this QB room, high-end talent, proven commodities, even as your backups. TCU's QB room is in an excellent place. At running back, they lose Cam Cook to transfer, Savion Williams to the NFL, who began playing more running back at the end of the year. They do have a lot of players back who dabbled in this backfield. Last year's third leading rusher, former 4-star Jeremy Payne is back. He took a lot of the first-team reps this spring. He's now a sophomore at 5'10", 180 pounds, 4.4 yards per carry, 12 catches last year for Payne. But he did not really handle that much work, and when he was given opportunities, he didn't run away with the job. Players like Trent Battle still played ahead of him at times last year. Trent Battle, who's been with the team forever now. Not efficient, 4.2 yards per carry, 6 catches, but he's a little bigger than Payne. He's 6'1", 200 pounds. I imagine he'll function in some sort of a committee. They also have redshirt freshman Nate Palmer, who played only 23 snaps last year, but he's been a player who's really emerged this spring. I wouldn't be surprised if Palmer jumps Trent Battle and jumps Jeremy Payne, but ultimately they like using a committee generally. We'll see if one of these backs could really emerge and handle a lion's share of the work. I'm not sure that'll happen, but it's at least worth mentioning. From there, they bring in a veteran, Kavorian Barnes from UTSA. He's 5'9", 210 pounds. His best season came as a freshman in 2022, where he had 834 yards. 2024, where he had 834 yards and 24 catches. But explosion's been a problem for him. The yards after contact, force, missed tackles have not always been there for Barnes. And that was at UTSA. So another player who could play in committee, they sort of have 4 guys that are capable. I'm not sure if any one of them is a star, but if there is a star, I would put my money more on the younger players like Jeremy Payne and Nate Palmer. And if one of them could emerge, that would be awesome for this team. Wide receiver, this is the position where they are replacing the most on offense. Savion Williams, Jack Bech were both drafted. JP Richardson is gone as well. And for a team that is replacing so much, it is shocking that they get a player like Eric McAllister back. The former Boise State transfer, 6'3", 205. He finished second on the team in receiving with 39 catches for 762 yards, despite playing a part-time role. This kid wasn't even starting. Played out wide 78% of the time, 2.89 yards per route is incredible. When we saw Bech and Savion miss the bowl games, he erupted. He was excellent with Boise State. I mean, he's a fantastic player. I would be shocked if he's not the wide receiver one and one of the best receivers in this conference. So you have an immediate alpha in the room with Eric McAllister. And then they bring in a couple transfers to sort of ease the departures. Jordan Dwyer comes in from Idaho. Joseph Manjack from Houston. Starting with Dwyer, the FCS transfer, he's 6 feet, 195. And this isn't your normal FCS transfer. This was one of the most productive players in the FCS, 79 catches, 1,204 yards, 12 touchdowns. Perimeter receiver, 84% of the time he was out wide, 3.19 yards per route is incredible. Good speed. A lot of the talk out of TCU has been his deep threat ability. So the transition for FCS is always difficult, but this is a player that was just dominant down there, which is better than anyone else who plays, your standard starting role. Manjack is 6'3", 205, caught 22 passes for 351 yards last year. It was a transition for Houston. His best season came in 23 with 46 catches. He played in the slot in 23 as well, and then last year they made a move out wide, so it was kind of a position change. The way it's been described in the spring with Manjack is sort of playing the Bech role. So that is probably going to look more like 2023, in my opinion. His efficiency has been fine, 1.56 yards per route for Manjack. He was originally a pretty good recruit and played with USC in his first year, so this is not a low-level prospect. Expecting him to come in, probably not play as well as Bech, but this is not a guy who's like from the FCS or something. Behind them, I don't really know what to make of this team. Your top three, I think, are pretty good, but like Major Everhart, Jordan Bailey were both expected to play larger roles. They've both been out this spring. Bailey caught 9 balls last year. Everhart was hurt last year, but he caught 20 in 2023. He's mainly been a slot receiver. Like, what do we get out of these guys? With their injuries, younger players have gotten more reps. Dozie Ezukanma has been a player with a lot of hype this spring. He's 6'3", 185, and he's put on a lot of weight, which is great because that frame, he was just really, really thin before this. I don't know what we're going to get out of former 4-stars, Jekyll Baker, Braylon James. Both of them seem to have really struggled to ascend the depth chart. Braylon James was originally a Notre Dame transfer. He only got 45 snaps last year. Baker hasn't played a snap at all yet. They do recruit a pair of 4-star freshmen who maybe just jump these Bakers and James types right away. Ed Small's gotten a lot of reps this spring because of injuries. The current 4-star freshman, Dykes singled him out as a player who could compete immediately this season. So I think there's still a lot to shake out this summer, especially with the players that were injured in the spring. What you can say is they're pretty good up top, and they've been recruiting well enough with some of the young 4-stars and transfers that this is probably a good receiving core, even if it doesn't quite live up to last year, which was a top 10 unit in the country efficiency-wise. Tight end. The offense doesn't use a tight end on every snap. Sometimes the tight ends are in the slot. They lose Drake Dabney, who's a pretty decent loss for this team, but they do have former 4-star DJ Rogers. He played 310 snaps last year, caught 12 passes. He's 6'4", 250 pounds, and shockingly was above average as a blocker. They also bolstered this unit by bringing in a former 4-star from LSU, Kamorian Pimpton, 6'6", 242. We haven't seen a lot of him. He only has 6 catches to his name, hasn't blocked a ton, but he is a former 4-star, just hard to play at LSU. Chase Curtis is also back. He caught 7 passes for 77 yards, 6'5", 240. Wouldn't be surprised to see him ascend the depth chart either. He's been injured a lot recently, so that's another factor that has kind of held him down. I wouldn't be surprised if he climbs the depth chart is what I'm trying to say. It's a shockingly good tight end room for TCU, which is not known always for their tight end production. Offensive line, they lose 2 of their better players. James Brockermeyer at center hit the portal. Bless Harris at tackle is gone. But it looks like the interior is pretty settled. They're moving Colton Deary back to center. That's his more natural position. He played guard last year, but he even was awesome there. He only allowed 11 pressures and 1 sack. He's played over 1,500 snaps through 2 years starting. So You get Deary back to center. He started there at his previous school. He started there in high school. This is a natural transition for Deary. Right guard Carson Bruno is back. He started and played 594 snaps, 12 pressures, and 1 sack allowed. Strong in every category. He's now a 3-year starter because he has 2 years of starting experience with Louisiana Tech before he came to TCU last year. He should man that right guard spot. Left guard, there's a couple options who both have starting experience. First of all, you're getting back Cade Bennett. Last year, he transferred in from San Diego State. Got hurt before the season even started, so he missed the whole year. But he started with the Aztecs in 2022 and 2023. In both of those seasons combined, he allowed 14 pressures and 1 sack. He's got to make the jump. He's got to return from injury, but those are incredible numbers in the Mountain West. If he's not ready, which he should be, he was practicing in the spring. Former Texas A&M transfer Remington Strickland's also an option. He was below average on his 395 snaps, but it was sort of imbalanced. He was a really bad run blocker, but awesome in the pass game. So we'll see if he can't move. Maybe he plays out at tackle too. You never know. For depth, they bring in Dylan Kinney, Abilene Christian, sort of average in the FCS. He's definitely just a depth piece on the interior. They also have Ryan Hughes. This sort of segues us to tackle. I wouldn't be surprised if he plays guard or tackle because as a freshman last year, he started their bowl game. He played quite a bit of left tackle, and he was solid on his 130 snaps, only allowed 2 pressures. I don't know if they'll play the left or the right side or if they'll try to kick him into guard. Tackle's definitely a bigger question for TCU. So it seems to me that that's probably the most likely position with just the lack of bodies out there. The other tackle's probably Ben Taylor Whitfield, and I've never really seen a player get so much hype after struggling so much through his career. Last year, he allowed 14 QB pressures. He had 9 penalties. I mean, he was decent pass blocker, which is most important for this offense. But man, a lot of mental lapses. I've heard people say he's the most likely to reach the NFL from this team. And maybe frame-wise and just intangibles and traits, sure. But, I mean, he's just been so far behind average. The coaching staff loves him. They keep hyping him up. So at some point, either we got to see it or just trust his coaching staff. So we'll see what he gives you. He's sort of a black box to me. Clearly has the talent to be one of the best linemen. Just needs to clean up some stuff, especially between the ears with those penalties. However, I mean, this team is a lot of depth from their recruiting. Tobias Stepis is a 4-star. Logan Schramm, Killian Regis, 4 stars. They bring in a depth transfer in Rasheed Jackson from Incarnate Word. He's 6'7". He's played over 1,000 snaps in a year. And I don't think he's likely to start, but I mean, maybe they could coax something out of him. He didn't allow a sack. So this is a deep unit, the offensive line. So I think it might be even deeper than last year, which is saying a lot because that unit was pretty good. Anyway, this is in a good spot, especially inside. You can piece together the tackles with your 6 or 7 options, and you're looking at a very good offensive line in this conference. The edge group heading to defense. They lose Nana Osafa-Mensah and Cooper McDonald off the edge, but they return Devin Deal, who had a strong season. He played 610 snaps, originally a Tulane transfer, 24 pressures, 46 tackles in the run game, led the team with 10 TFLs. Great place to start. What can we do opposite him? Well, mentioned it at the top, they get Paul Oyewale back, who missed all of 24 with an injury. He played nearly 400 snaps in 23, had 16 pressures. Very good play from him. So that's the first place. 4-star Travis Jackson was forced into 235 snaps last year, largely because of injuries. Only 7 pressures, but he's a good recruit, and he got some experience. So Travis Jackson being back helps. They have a 4-star freshman in Chad Wolfert from this incoming season. Jonathan Bax and Sterling Brooks played a little bit last year. The edge group wasn't great, but there's really no way it can get worse. This was the worst unit on the team. So a couple 4-stars, strong returning production from Deal. Oyewale is back from injury, expecting improvement. Inside, Marquise Deal, Zach Chapman are back. Deal is 325 pounds, played 385 snaps. His best skill set was against the run. He did have 12 pressures, but still, that was not the best part of his game. He's a good run defender. Chapman is a 4-star sophomore as well, who played 346 snaps last year. He's sort of a weird tweener player. You know, like Deal is a real defensive tackle, nose tackle if you need it. Chapman is more of like a 5 technique. Most of his snaps came lined up around the tackle spot. He's 255, so you could kick him out to edge if you wanted to. He was great. So another season with the program, versatile defensive lineman. Love what Chapman has to offer. They also bring in Ansel Dean Imbu from Washington State. 472 snaps out there, 20 pressures. He's 291, so he can definitely help inside. And sort of the black boxes at this position, they head to the JUCO well and add Kelton Mickle and Perry Cole Jr. Apparently, they're very happy with these guys. It's very hard to evaluate JUCO guys. They're even more volatile sometimes than FCS transfers. But they bring in a pair of them. It's not like they'll be needed to play 600 snaps or something. They could give them a rotational role. That would be excellent. Linebacker, they lose Johnny Hodges, which isn't great on paper, but man, Nnamdi Obiezor gets an extra year from the JUCO stuff. Caleb Elarms-Orr comes back. Obiezor, he started the last 2 years, 81 tackles, was second on the team last year, 7 TFLs, 10 QB pressures, a 74% completion percentage for 198 scoreless yards, 1 interception, 1 PBU. He's awesome. Great place to start. Elarms-Orr transferred in from Cal, and he saw his snaps drop from 700 to 302, but his efficiency actually increased. On 302 snaps, he had 10 QB pressures and 54 tackles. I mean, Elarms-Orr should step right in. If it doesn't work for whatever reason, they bring in a depth transfer, Michael Thiessen from Missouri State. He was good in the FCS. Max Carroll played 159 snaps as a freshman last year. Especially up top, this is a very strong linebacker room. At DB, they lose Abe Kamara and Lamarian James. They do return 1 full-time boundary corner in Shannon Canada. He's 6'1", so a big corner. 59% completion, 215 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 pick, 1 PBU. He was above average, which is great. The second cornerback slot on the boundary is up for grabs. Avery Helm missed all last year, but he's a former Florida transfer. 54% completion allowed for him in 23 for 301 yards, 1 touchdown, 4 PBUs. He's a candidate. Javon McIver, he's back. Former Austin Peay transfer. 231 snaps at an above average level. He's a candidate. Elijah Jackson comes in from Washington this year. He lost the starting job, but he did start in 2023. Little bit questionable throughout his career. 60% completion for 802 yards, 10 touchdowns, 5 PBUs. That's on 93 targets. All 3 options haven't really played that far above average and in some cases below. But I think those are your 3 main players that could play on the boundary, and I would expect that to shake out in the summer. TCU's defense is generally playing 3 safeties. At least it has recently. And they kick one of those guys in the slot. Last year, Abe Kamara led the team in slot snaps. He's gone. But Bud Clark, Austin Jordan, and Jamel Johnson all played at least 112 snaps in the slot. And Bud Clark is awesome. Maybe the best defender on the team. He's a 3-year starter, but he just erupted last year. Former 4-star, so the recruiting is there. 67 tackles. Only allowed 212 scoreless yards, 3 picks, 4 PBUs. What an awesome season from Bud Clark. Johnson, this is Jamel Johnson, former 4-star, Texas A&M transfer. Only played 289 snaps last year, but was awesome on them. 58% completion for 52 scoreless yards. And then, that was Austin Jordan, not Jamel Johnson. Austin Jordan's the former Texas transfer 4-star. Just got these 2 mixed up. Jamel Johnson, he already started last year, played 671 snaps. He was 3rd on the team in tackles with 73 and allowed a 57% completion percentage for only 234 yards and 1 touchdown. So Jordan, to be specific, the Texas 4-star transfer, who only allowed the 52 yards, played quite a bit in the slot. Jamel Johnson, who started full-time at safety, played quite a bit in the slot. Both of them were solid. And if for whatever reason you can't get good play out of these players, there's an injury, whatever it is, Kylan Jackson comes in from LSU. He's a former 4-star. Ryan Yates comes in from Cali. He's a former 4-star. You have so much depth here. And a lot of them were injured. Yates especially battled injury last year. If it's not enough, Devondre McGee, Jordan Lester played a couple snaps. The secondary was awesome last year. There's a chance they're better. This is a great secondary, man. I'm surprised how well they've been able to retain. The JUCO rule helps, of course, and then acquire talent. At kicker, Kyle Lemmerman is back. He missed just 1 of his 55 extra points. He was 15 of 22 on field goals, and he was not great on just pure field goals. He was kind of spraying from all over the place. Finished as the 94th most efficient kicker in college football last year, but it was his first year starting, so another year, maybe it gets better. But special teams, especially kicking, special teams were great for TCU last year, but I think some of that is just the playmakers you had returning the ball. This year, the kicking game especially could be a little bit questionable. Overall, this is a great roster. We have TCU is the third roster in the Big 12 behind Texas Tech and forget the other team. Believe it's Baylor? Maybe Arizona State? I don't remember. Anyway, awesome roster. They should have better postseason expectations than the odds are giving them. Let's look at the schedule. North Carolina to start in non-con. Weird bye structure. Week 2 bye, not great. But non-con overall is doable, manageable. At North Carolina with Bill Belichick, that's probably the best time to face them. They've dealt with similar problems before. They played Colorado the first year. Deion was there, took an L. That was also after the national championship with a ton of change. They do play SMU in non-con too, which is another tough team. Abilene Christian should be a win, but that's not a walkover FCS team either. I wouldn't be surprised if they drop a game in non-conference, but there's a very real chance they're 3-0. Then in conference, you travel right away to Tempe to play Arizona State, which is probably the toughest game on your schedule in conference. You'll notice there is no Texas Tech on the schedule. You face Arizona State, Kansas State, Baylor among the elite teams, but there's plenty of rebuilds here. Colorado without their 2 best players in the NFL. West Virginia, new coaching staff. Houston should be better in year 2, but they still have a little ways to go. Cincinnati and Iowa State are replacing a lot, especially Iowa State losing those 2 NFL receivers. So this schedule I don't think is quite as bad as some people are making it out to be. You could argue the road trips aren't fantastic, which I would agree with, but still, if you're going to play these teams on the road, down seasons is probably the best time to do so. I would call this team a dark horse to win the Big 12, to make the Big 12 championship. But at this point, if you look at the odds market, it's just so jumbled up. Everyone is sort of clogged together after the last couple seasons that even with the 9th or 10th best odds, they're still really not that far away from first. So, this is a team that could easily win the conference. Despite being 9th or 10th, I think the odds sort of bear that out. But thank you guys for watching. Let me know what team you'd like to see next or if you have any other feedback. Until next time, good luck. We'll see you next time.